The year 280 AC marked a pivotal moment in the history of Westeros. The realm was teetering on the brink of chaos under the erratic and unpredictable rule of King Aerys Targaryen, known to all as the Mad King. His reign, once promising, had descended into madness. Alienating the nobility, the common folk, and even his own family, fear and cruelty became the foundation of his rule, with his erratic behavior and violent outbursts putting the entire realm in constant danger. Yet this dark chapter was destined to end, not with a bang, but with the intervention of a single event, the Duskendale incident, which would change the fate of Westeros forever. In the Mad King's final moments, the people of Duskendale, fed up with Aerys's cruelty, had taken matters into their own hands. In this new reality, Aerys did not survive the siege. Instead of his eventual release at the hands of seer Jaime Lannister, the Mad King was killed by his captors. The news of Aerys's death spread rapidly throughout the realm, igniting a mixture of fear, hope, and uncertainty. The throne now lay vacant. Who would rule? The answer came swiftly. Rhaegar Targaryen, the eldest son of Aerys, ascended to the throne. Unlike his father, Rhaegar was not a man of violent outbursts or irrational behavior. His leadership was measured, calculated, and most importantly, guided by a wisdom that few understood. Rhaegar was a prince known for his intelligence, his musical talents, and his noble demeanor, qualities that set him apart from his father's notorious legacy. His rise to the throne came at a time when Westeros was ready for change. The realm, battered and bruised by years of Aerys's erratic rule, was ready for a ruler who could bring peace and stability, and Rhaegar seemed to be the answer. However, Rhaegar's path to the throne was not as straightforward as it might seem. His rule was clouded by the remnants of Robert's rebellion, the movement that had begun as a result of Aerys's tyranny and the political maneuverings of those who sought to replace the Targaryens. With his father dead, many believed that Rhaegar would face the full force of Robert Baratheon's wrath, but the death of the Mad King presented an opportunity that neither Robert nor the other rebel leaders had anticipated. Peace. Rhaegar, seeing the potential to heal the wounds that had torn Westeros apart, extended an olive branch to Robert Baratheon. Instead of preparing for war, as many had expected, Rhaegar chose to offer Robert a chance at reconciliation. This diplomatic overture was met with initial resistance. Robert, whose hatred for the Targaryens was born out of personal loss and betrayal, was not easily swayed. His memories of Lyanna Stark, his betrothed, kidnapped and killed by Rhaegar Deep. Robert's fury could not be so easily extinguished. Yet Rhaegar's wisdom was apparent in his approach. He did not demand Robert's immediate loyalty, nor did he seek revenge for the perceived wrongs done to his family. Instead, he offered peace, understanding, and a future where both their houses could coexist. The Lannisters, led by Tywin Lannister, saw an opportunity to further their ambitions by aligning themselves with Rhaegar's new reign. The Targaryen-Lannister alliance would be one of the most significant political unions in the history of Westeros. Tywin, ever the schemer, recognized that supporting Rhaegar was the most advantageous path for his family. But his true ambitions went far beyond mere alliance building. However, not all was as harmonious as it seemed. While Rhaegar sought peace, there were factions within the realm that were less inclined to accept a Targaryen king. The Starks, whose loyalty to the Targaryens had always been lukewarm at best, would become an unpredictable force. Despite the fact that Ned Stark had been sworn to Aerys too, Starks had always been more concerned with the welfare of the North than the politics of the southern courts. Ned's suspicion of the Targaryens ran deep, and the history of the family would remain a lingering shadow over his actions. Despite the political landscape being fragile, Rhaegar sought to consolidate his power with diplomacy. He worked diligently to strengthen ties with the Starks, Martells, and even the Greyjoys, who had long been rivals of the Targaryens. He understood that he could not rule with force alone. He needed to unite the great houses of Westeros under his banner if he were to stand a chance against the coming storm. To achieve this, Rhaegar's decisions became more deliberate, and his focus on securing alliances grew even more intense. He sought not only to ensure his own rule, but also to leave a legacy that could outlast the division and strife that had marked his father's reign. During this time, Rhaegar also found solace in a deeper connection to the ancient powers of Westeros, the three-eyed raven. this mysterious figure, whose influence stretched across time and space, began to shape Rhaegar's actions in ways that even he could not fully comprehend. His connection to the Raven's visions guided him toward decisions that seemed to defy conventional wisdom. He saw glimpses of a future where his reign could be the key to unlocking the future of Westeros. But he also saw the dangers of his bloodline and the destiny that awaited his children. Rhaegar's connection to the Raven was not just one of knowledge, it was a bond that transcended the ordinary understanding of the world. It was in these moments that Rhaegar understood the true meaning of his role in the grand scheme of things. His wisdom, now sharpened by visions of the future, made him a prophet king, but it also burdened him. The knowledge of what was to come weighed heavily on him, and the political decisions he made were tinged with the understanding that the realm would face a terrible reckoning in the near future. Still, Rhaegar held firm, believing that through peace and unity, he could forge a better future for Westeros. Rhaegar Targaryen's rule, though filled with promise and wisdom, was destined to be shaped by both the weight of his family's history and the looming shadows of the future. His connection to the three-eyed raven deepened, and with it came the understanding that the throne was not merely a seat of power, but a piece in a far larger game, one that stretched beyond the physical realm and into the very fabric of fate itself. The future of Westeros, as Rhaegar saw through the raven's eyes, would not be decided by any one king. Instead, the land was in the midst of a transitional war that was not merely for the throne, but for the very soul of the realm. The visions showed Rhaegar that he had a pivotal role to play, but whether his reign would bring peace or lead to further destruction was still unclear. Rhaegar's diplomatic moves and the growing tensions in the early years of his reign, Rhaegar sought to stabilize Westeros through diplomacy. His approach to governance was marked by a deep understanding of the realm's fractured state. The Baratheons, led by Robert Baratheon, were a key challenge. Robert's hatred for the Targaryens, fueled by personal loss and the kidnapping of Lyanna Stark by Rhaegar, had become the spark for Robert's rebellion. Now, with Rhaegar on the throne, Robert saw an opportunity to reclaim what he had lost. But Rhaegar, ever the strategist, recognized that war would only serve to prolong the suffering of the realm. Instead of immediate military conflict, Rhaegar sought peace with Robert, even offering a position of honor at his court in return for an alliance. Robert, however, rejected Rhaegar's overtures, consumed by his desire for vengeance. Ned Stark, too, remained a reluctant ally at best. His loyalty to Robert and his distaste for the Targaryen legacy pushing him away from Rhaegar's efforts. Despite Rhaegar's offers, the seeds of Robert's rebellion were never fully buried. His hatred for Rhaegar ran deeper than political maneuvering, and the two men would never see eye to eye. However, Rhaegar's reach extended further than just Robert and Ned. He worked to repair relationships with the Martells in Dorne. After his marriage to Ilya Martell had established a tenuous peace. Through this, Rhaegar sought to create a unified Westeros, where the major houses were not at odds, but working together for a common future. But Tywin Lannister, with his ambitions far greater than any mere alliance, continued to play both sides, subtly undermining Rhaegar's influence. Tywin's loyalty to the Targaryen crown was never genuine, and he saw Rhaegar's rule as an opportunity to advance the Lannister cause. By now, Tywin's lust for power had grown insatiable, and he began plotting not just for the eventual downfall of Rhaegar, but for the eventual Lannister control of the throne. He would manipulate his children, including Cersei, to marry into power, all the while pretending to be an ally of the crown. As Tywin's machinations grew more complex, Rhaegar found himself increasingly at odds with the very people who had once supported his rule. The prophecy and the burden of knowledge as Rhaegar's reign continued, his connection to the three-eyed raven grew stronger. The visions he experienced showed him a future fraught with challenges. He saw the coming darkness and the long winter that would come not just to the north, but to all of Westeros. He understood that the war he faced would not be a war of men, but one against the White Walkers and the forces of the dead. In the quiet moments, Rhaegar would retreat to the quiet halls of Dragonstone, where he could commune with the Raven and better understand his visions. One of the most striking revelations that came to him was the knowledge of Jon Snow, a child of both Targaryen and Stark blood, whose importance to the future of the realm could not be overstated. Jon Snow, born of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar's love, was destined to play a pivotal role in the coming war. But how this would play out, Rhaegar could not yet see. At the same time, Rhaegar began to realize the true extent of the prophecy of the prince that was promised. He had long believed that he was the one spoken of in the prophecy, that he was destined to save Westeros from the darkness. But now, with his visions of Jon Snow and Daenerys, he began to question whether he was simply a stepping stone in a larger game of fate. The dragon's true future may not lie with him, but with the children of his bloodline children who had yet to be born. Daenerys and Jon Snow. The children of destiny. Rhaegar's prophetic visions showed him glimpses of his children. Daenerys Targaryen, the last Targaryen, would rise to become one of the most powerful figures in Westeros. Her path was one of fire and blood, much like the legacy of her house. Her journey would be one of destruction and renewal, as she, too, would face the darkness of the world. The visions showed her surrounded by flames, but also holding the power to bring change to the world. Rhaegar knew that his daughter would play a crucial role in the future of Westeros, but he also saw the dangers that came with such power. And then there was Jon Snow. Jon, raised as a Stark, was unaware of his true heritage, yet his connection to the Targaryen bloodline was undeniable. Rhaegar saw Jon's role in the coming conflict. Jon would lead the fight against the White Walkers, and it would be through his actions that the fate of the realm would be decided. The vision of Jon Snow, standing at the forefront of the battle for Westeros, became clearer and clearer, and Rhaegar knew that his son, though not yet born, would be a hero. The coming war and Rhaegar's legacy. Despite Rhaegar's best efforts to unite the kingdom, the realm was not yet ready for peace. The forces of darkness were already on the move, and the political landscape was about to be reshaped forever. Robert Baratheon would not be swayed, and despite Rhaegar's overtures for peace, the rebellion would continue. Tywin Lannister, ever ambitious, would make his move, and in the end, the Targaryen Dynasty would fall not because of internal strife, but because the forces of fate were far beyond any king's control. Rhaegar knew that his time was limited, and that his reign would not be long. But he also knew that the future of Westeros lay not in his hands alone. His children Aerys and Jon would be the ones to lead the realm through the coming darkness. Their future was written in the stars, and Rhaegar, as the prince that was promised, would see his vision fulfilled, but only through sacrifice, strength, and the blood of the Targaryens would the realm stand a chance against the coming winter.